news, the Omicron variant is here, sickening people from California to New York. We'll speak with an expert about what we know and what we don't know.
Is this the end of Roe v. Wade? A landmark case is before the Supreme Court that could determine the future of abortion in the United States.
And we'll have a special report, Fentanyl, the opioid killer. As drug deaths skyrocket, one opioid is responsible for many of them. And we'll talk with a Chapman student who lost a loved one from a drug overdose. All that and more this week on Chapman News.
From Dodge College of Film and Media Arts, this is Chapman News.
Good afternoon, I'm Luca Evans.
And I'm Tiffany Chen. Bombshell announcement in a Michigan courtroom. In addition to charging Ethan Crumbly with a murder, the prosecutors are holding the parents responsible as well. Emma Sexton has more.
That gun ownership is a right, and with that right comes great responsibility. Based on the information and evidence I have received, today I am announcing charges against the shooter's parents, Jennifer and James Crumbly. The charges are as follows. James Crumbly is charged with 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter. Jennifer Crumbly is also charged with 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter.
In announcing the charges, the prosecutor outlined a series of events that led up to the shooting. First, on Black Friday, a gun was purchased as a gift for Ethan Crumbly. Later that night, he posted a picture of the gun on Instagram, captioned, "Just got my new beauty today." Later, Crumbly was reported for shopping for ammunition in class. The response from his mother was a text, "Don't get caught." This concerning behavior led to meetings with parents and administrators. It was decided that he would return to class. 2 hours later, the shooting began. Ethan Crumbly is charged with the shooting deaths of 4 students and injuring 7 more at Oxford High School. He's being charged as an adult with terrorism, murder, and other gun-related charges. He's pleading not guilty. Prosecutors say the terrorism charge is justified because of the impact on students.
What about all these other children? What about all the children who ran, screaming, hiding under desks? What about all the children at home right now who can't eat and can't sleep and can't imagine a world where they could ever foot back in that school? Those are victims too, and so are their families, and so is the community.
This is the worst school shooting in the country this year. The Oxford High School community has left flowers near the school in honor of the victims: Hannah St. Juliana, Madison Baldwin, Justin Schilling, and Tate Meyer.
The charges of involuntary manslaughter are highly unusual. If convicted, the parents will face up to 15 years in prison. In other news, the Omicron variant is now in the United States. It has been detected in at least 5 states, including here in California.
The Biden administration is introducing a new plan to fight this new COVID threat. Peyton Bell is here with the details. Peyton?
Stressing the need for unity, the president laid out a plan to combat COVID and its new variant Omicron.
To fight this variant with science and speed, not chaos and confusion.
Biden reassured the nation that his plan did not include additional shutdowns, but efforts to unite the country. The highlights were new vaccination sites aimed at families, boosters for all adults, new testing for international travelers, and free at-home test kits. Here's what we know at this point. At least 24 countries have now reported confirmed cases of the Omicron variant. The variant, which was first detected in South Africa, has now spread to at least 3 states, including California. At least 70 countries and territories have imposed travel restrictions for 8 Southern African countries.
Many of us will have to travel during the holidays. What you do when you travel, you take care, you're prudent.
There is still a lot we don't know about the Omicron variant, but scientists are racing to determine its severity, transmissibility, and whether vaccines are effective.
Joining us now is Chapman's infectious disease expert, Dr. Jerrica Lamb. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So, Dr. Lamb, could you please tell us what we know right now about the Omicron variant?
Yes, so the Omicron variant or virus actually is dominating the news as we are speaking. And what we know is information from scientists over in Europe, and the Omicron variant actually, it is, I would say it's a I would say a younger sibling of the Delta variant. So meaning that basically the Omicron variant is more transmissible and more infectious.
Perhaps more importantly, what do we not know and when can we expect those answers?
Yes, so what we don't know is basically are our vaccines basically, I would say, totally or equally efficacious against Omicron. We do know that based on the 2 to 3 cases now in the United States of those who have been vaccinated and have contracted the Omicron variant, that they have mild symptoms. So they do have some symptoms, but they're not so severe where these 3 individuals have been hospitalized. So we do know that the vaccines do work, but the question is that how long does the protection last against Omicron? And also the other question that we don't know is how widespread Omicron will become in the United States.
How would you recommend we react right now? And what steps can individuals take to stay protected and healthy this winter?
Yeah, so the great thing about what we've gone through for over, I say, almost 22 months now is that this is not novel anymore. This is not new. We've been in an emergency situation for over almost 2 years now. So I would say that we have many great tools in our toolbox. And so I would say the same things that we've done before to stay healthy and alive up to this point is masking up, getting our vaccines, because that's our only effective weapon that we have. Social distancing, as well as personal washing our hands and practicing safety precautions that we've done before in 2020.
Yes, thank goodness for vaccines. Unfortunately, though, it seems like every time we've turned a corner, a new variant appears. Is this ever going to end?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I think sometimes many of us are getting pretty fatigued and exhausted. It's as if we're always chasing this virus and we're not having a good lead or being ahead. I think the answer would be we don't know yet, because this virus replicates so quickly. And as long as there are unvaccinated individuals out there in our communities, there's really no secure or no positive way that we can really have a proactive or pragmatic approach to get a lead on this virus, to control it, to contain it. We really need to encourage and strongly advise people to get vaccinated, because the more replications and mutations that this virus has, the deadlier it becomes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Drug maker Merck applied emergency use authorization for its new antiviral drug that they claim cuts hospitalizations and deaths in half for people with mild to moderate COVID symptoms. If the pill is approved, it would be the first oral medication to fight viral infection. It could be available by the end of the year. That's all from me this week. Back to you at the desk.
Besides posing a new challenge in ending the pandemic, the Omicron variant also laid bare a problem experts had been sounding off on for months: vaccine inequity between rich and poor nations. Adrian Mitchell took a look at this inequity that potentially led to Omicron.
Vaccine nationalism, the concept that rich countries are stockpiling vaccines for their own use instead of giving them to countries with low vaccine rates. Experts say this is dangerous and may lead to the spread of COVID variants in developing countries, and thus prolong the pandemic for everyone. A report by a coalition of activist groups, including Amnesty International, finds that of the 1.8 billion doses of the COVID-19 vaccine promised to developing countries by the G7 in Europe, only 14% has been delivered. The U.S. has delivered more doses than other wealthy nations, but it's only donated 16% of the 1.1 billion doses it pledged. In fact, rich countries have donated vaccines to other rich countries rather than poorer ones. Some experts are suggesting that the new Omicron variant may be the result of this vaccine hoarding. The special advisor to the Director General of the World Health Organization tweeted, quote, "How do you double down on inequity and injustice? Deny countries vaccines so they generate variants, and then when they do, impose travel restrictions." And South Africa isn't happy with the sudden travel ban. South Africa's ambassador to the United Nations commented,
"We feel that the travel ban is very unfair. South African science should be commended for discovering this new variant and sharing the information with the world. This also confirms the correctness of our call for vaccine equity."
South Africa has a lower vaccination rate than many Western countries. According to Our World in Data, only 24% of South Africa's population is fully vaccinated. But the low vaccination rate in South Africa isn't only because of low vaccine supply. It's also because of vaccine hesitancy, a lack of proper infrastructure to administer the vaccines, unpredictable vaccine deliveries, and a lack of necessary vaccine storage. This is Adrienne Mitchell reporting for Chapman News.
This week, Capitol Hill was hectic, especially in the Supreme Court.
Our political reporter Jack Hull is here with more.
Yes, it has been busy on Capitol Hill, but first, the Bureau of Labor Statistics reported this morning that in November, 210,000 jobs were added, the weakest showing so far this year. The report is less than what economists had hoped and failed to surpass last month's total of over 500,000. But on to the biggest news. This week, it's been almost 50 years since the Roe v. Wade ruling granted women the right to an abortion without government intervention. The ruling has sparked heated debate for decades, and tensions were at an all-time high outside the Supreme Court this week.
I was raped, I became pregnant, and I chose to get an abortion. I know many of you heard the story, but that's why I'm here today with all of you to declare that abortion care is a constitutionally protected human right, and we are demanding that it stays that way.
Outrage outside the Supreme Court as this week the court heard arguments on a Mississippi law seen as the biggest threat to Roe v. Wade in a quarter century. The ban, which outlaws most abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy, is the latest in attempts to restrict reproductive rights, following the ban passed in Texas earlier this year. For years, similar restrictions were struck down in appeals courts, but last May, the court agreed to hear the case with a 6-3 majority. John Dunn, president and CEO of Planned Parenthood of Orange and San Bernardino counties, warns that if Roe v. Wade is overturned, abortion laws nationwide could change rapidly.
If the court rules to overturn Roe v. Wade, there will be 22 states that will act quickly to ban abortion in those states.
Dunn also predicts that mass abortion reform could force patients to travel state lines in masses, overwhelming clinics in pro-choice states.
The other states are in a position where they're going to have to absorb the patient volume for those patients who are coming over state lines to get care because they no longer can get a safe legal abortion in their own state.
A Gallup poll reports that 58% of Americans believe Roe v. Wade should be upheld, while 32% wants to see the ruling overturned. The court is likely going to revisit the case next spring for an official ruling. However, it is important to consider that in the past few years, there has been a major shift in the Supreme Court. The Trump administration appointed 3 new justices, giving the court a considerable conservative advantage. Political experts believe that because of this, the court will likely uphold the Mississippi law next year. Last night, Congress approved legislation to keep the government funded through early next year, avoiding a shutdown in the process. Republicans threatened to force a shutdown in opposition to President Biden's vaccine mandate, requiring large companies to mandate COVID vaccines by January. The deal will keep the government open until February, with an additional $7 billion going towards the resettlement of Afghan refugees. That's all I got for this week. I'm Jack Hull. Back to you at the desk.
Alec Baldwin says he is not to blame for the death of cinematographer Helena Hutchins. In his first interview since the fatal shooting during rehearsals on the set of the film Rust, Baldwin told ABC he feels incredible sadness and regret, but not guilt. Baldwin says he never pulled the trigger on the gun, but instead was instructed by Hutchins herself to point it just below her armpit and pull back the hammer. He says whoever placed live ammunition in the gun is to blame for Hutchins' death. Authorities continue to investigate how live ammunition got unset.
In a big shakeup in the cable TV world, CNN suspended its top anchor Chris Cuomo after a new report revealed he did more to help his brother than previously thought. You will remember that Chris's older brother, New York State Governor Andrew Cuomo, was accused by 11 women of sexual abuse. He was forced to resign as governor. Chris previously said he was acting like a brother, not a counselor. But a lengthy report from the New York State Attorney General now says Chris Cuomo did a lot more, including investigating his brother's accusers and questioning fellow journalists about what they knew. All of this a clear conflict of interest. CNN suspended Cuomo indefinitely based on these revelations. Cuomo says he's, quote, embarrassed, but understands CNN actions.
After the break, the killer drug that's capturing the nation's attention. Chapman News has an exclusive report on the fentanyl crisis.
And an exclusive report on how one small town banded together when their only restaurant got flooded out by historic rain.
Oh, well, thank you. Our children and families want us to be healthy. That's why I and lots of other grown-ups got the COVID-19 vaccine, so we can stay healthy and get back to the moments we miss, like seeing our friends and family.
Here you go, Daddy. For a healthy checkup, a sticker.
Oh, thanks, son.
With free COVID-19 vaccines, sunnier days are ahead. Visit getvaccineanswers.org.
According to the CDC, opioid overdose deaths from April 2020 to April 2021 were 75,673. That's nearly 20,000 more than the same period a year ago.
Barbara Fox is in studio with a special report on how the fentanyl crisis is hitting Chapman.
As shocking as those deaths are, according to a federal government report, one specific drug is responsible for more than half of those drug-related deaths in California. That drug is called fentanyl. We took a deeper dive into the fentanyl crisis and how it is affecting people right here on Chapman's campus.
David Rontaler, on the right, says his big brother James was caring, funny, and very passionate about sports.
I want to say around like 8 or 9 maybe. And like he wanted to show me like this move in basketball. So like I was posted up and he's like, when you're posted up on someone, you got to be able to back them down. And then he literally backed up and pushed me, and I literally fell on my butt, and I started laughing. And he's like, he goes, it's not funny. You seriously have to do this. And looking back, it's like, wow, it's like he was so passionate and wanted to teach me so bad and wanted me to do so well. Such a small moment, but it was like things like that. You just look back and go, like, man, like these were the moments.
However, his days of playing sports with his brother were short-lived. James West died at age 27 from a fentanyl overdose. In April of 2019, David arrived home from school and soon realized something was very wrong.
My stepdad's car's there. My stepdad never comes home early. And I was like, there's another vehicle I recognize. It was my aunt's. I didn't know at the time. I was like, that car looks familiar. So I parked thinking like, what's happening? I walk through the door, and in my house, when you walk through the door, you can see out through the back door. And I see my mom there with my stepdad and my aunt. And my mom like signals me to come over, and I literally walked out and said, what's up? And my mom starts breaking down, and I was like, my heart dropped. I was like, what happened?
He says he didn't know what to think or say.
It's like I just got hit, but I wasn't physically like moved, but I was just like so stunned I couldn't like really think about it.
David says James struggled with an addiction to heroin for many years.
He went to a party that night, ended up doing heroin, and inside the heroin was a lot of fentanyl. So that's what the cause of death was. We got the coroner's report back. So because the next day he was supposed to go to a doctor's appointment, but he just never woke up, and he was just found laying there in bed and not moving and not breathing.
Unfortunately, James' story is not unique. Over 70,000 people have died of fentanyl overdoses in 2019. Dr. Wilson Compton, Deputy Director of the National Institute of Drug Abuse,
says drug dealers have switched to dealing fentanyl because it is cheaper.
It's cheap in two ways. The potency means that a very small quantity of it can substitute for heroin or for other opioid agents. So it can easily mimic the effects of OxyContin or hydrocodone or Demerol or morphine.
Research shows that the fentanyl crisis has only gotten worse since the pandemic.
Because people are alone and isolated more than they were before, those are stressful situations and may be reasons for people relapsing to drug-related consumption when they were abstinent before. Another issue is that if you're by yourself when you use drugs, your risk of a fatal overdose are much higher. There's no one there to rescue you.
Dr. Compton says the research has shown that many drug users are aware of the potency and choose to seek it out thinking it is their only way to feel high again.
Once you use these substances for an extended period, you no longer really get high from it. What you do is you avoid withdrawal and you don't feel as bad, but you no longer experience the significant high or intoxication that you once did. And so in seeking out that experience, people may kill themselves.
David says he never thought anything would happen to his big brother and wants other young people to understand it could happen to anyone.
People need to be able to know that this is a problem and be able to stop it from happening again, because we're losing way too many young people, way too many, sons, daughters, moms, husbands, whatever, it's like we're losing way too many people to this, so it's like people need to know.
David is now attending school here at Dodge. He hopes to become a sports broadcaster, all thanks to James, who sparked his passion for sports. Next week, we will hear more from David on how he dealt with the death of his brother. Also, I'm going to be taking a closer look at drug consumption across campus and how the fentanyl crisis is impacting the Chapman community. One fraternity member didn't want to go on camera, but he put it this way.
Although we are trying to, not necessarily support that, we do want to make sure that our brothers can be as safe as possible, whatever they choose to do.
If you want to hear more about how the Chapman community has been impacted by the fentanyl crisis and get a deeper look into David's story, make sure to tune in next week for Barbara Fox's Part 2 on the crisis. Meanwhile, a white supremacist group has been distributing flyers in the Camino Real neighborhood here in the city of Orange, targeting the homeless. Suzanne Bailey has been coming to Camino Real Park in Orange for 36 years. She lives 3 blocks away. She says it's our park.
My children, I brought them here when they were little. We played on the playground. My youngest daughter played softball here.
But a couple of weeks ago, Bailey, along with other nearby residents, heard through next door about flyers found near the park distributed by a group called the Loyal White Knights. The flyers say the Loyal White Knights will begin patrolling the park looking for overnight camping and, quote, illegal actions by homeless people. The flyer reads, "The law-abiding citizens of our community can sleep in peace," but its message instead kept those citizens up at night because the group is affiliated with the Ku Klux Klan.
To hear of that in Orange is, needs to be dealt with and stamped on.
Another picture of the flyer includes a link to a website where visitors find a long manifesto and racist messages. I showed a picture of the flyer to Pete Simi, a Chapman University professor and expert on extremist groups. He said the Loyal White Knights have been in Orange for some time, and he notes the language in the flyer is in keeping with Ku Klux Klan beliefs.
All the basic ideas with the Klan in terms of representing itself as a kind of a vigilante community watch organization, that's certainly consistent.
Simi said it's common for extremist groups to target the homeless.
It's kind of like a survival of the fittest mentality in many respects, and so people who are homeless are viewed as weak, inferior, incapable.
In fact, the Loyal White Knights State Grand Dragon was arrested in 2017 for attacking a homeless man 2 years earlier. Bailey says there has been an increase in overnight camping by homeless people in Camino Real Park in recent years. She went to a community meeting the night the flyer was discovered, and Bailey says many Orange City officials, including Mayor Mark Murphy and members of the police department, were at the meeting. She says police officials talked about freedom of speech and noted that handing out a flyer isn't against the law. The city officials said they would be increasing private security in the park at night and would consider installing cameras. The Orange Police Department did not respond to multiple calls for comment. I spoke to one man living in the park that didn't want to be recorded who said that residents in this area had slowly been pushing the homeless out of Camino Real Park for the past few years. He said he wasn't made aware of the flyer, and as of now, it appears that the Loyal White Knights haven't taken any particular actions in this area. For Chapman News, I'm Luke Evans.
Hanukkah is a special time of year for so many people as it signifies a time where friends and family can get together and celebrate their beliefs. In the spirit of Hanukkah, one of Chapman's organizations, Hello Hillel, began tabling this week to celebrate the first Hanukkah back on campus by giving menorahs or candles to students. They've also began raising money to donate to kids who cannot afford any toys this holiday season.
What we're also doing in a philanthropic aspect is we're doing donations for kids who aren't able to afford gifts this year for the holidays and allowing people to donate any amount that they wish.
We all know the Pacific Northwest gets more than its fair share of rain. Anna Montemore reports the recent rainfall in Washington is the most the state has seen in years.
Washington State and parts of Canada have recently been experiencing heavy rainfall and powerful winds, causing severe flooding and mudslides. Many families and businesses have had to evacuate. I'm here in Lyman, Washington, where we have the Skagit River behind me, and with this excessive rainfall, we see huge amounts of snowmelt coming from the northern Cascades down into the rivers and affecting the nearby towns. Towns like Hamilton, Washington, a small community home to just around 200 people. It was hit harder than most in the area, and now it's left to clean up the damage. Local restaurant owner of Hamilton Cafe and Store, Mandy Bates, talks about how quickly things changed.
I was hoping no water was going to come inside and I could just fire my grill back up. They told us, like, oh, it's only going to get this deep. This is how much water you'll get in. So I was going by what they said, and I was like, oh, well, I can leave, like, my grill and my deep fryer and everything. I'll just put it up in my back room. They got water up in the back room.
And not only did water get inside, but so did a devastating amount of sulk, which is mud mixed with debris. Hamilton Cafe employee talks about how this makes cleanup very difficult.
Unfortunately, everything needs to be steamed, cleaned, or pressure washed to get all of that muck and soak out. And that's the biggest obstacle.
The small business, the only restaurant and grocery store in town, had to close for several days.
I'm hoping to be open by the first part of December, because that's kind of what I'm shooting for.
A goal that would only be possible with some help from the community. But that won't be a problem for Hamilton. Thankfully, this is when the town shines its brightest.
I mean, when it gets really bad, the town really comes together. Hamilton isn't what you call a rich community. I mean, we're rich in support for each other.
I've had several people stop by, hey, can you haul your garbage off for you? Or do you got anything heavy I can move? You know, the fire department's been great. It seems like when something like this happens, the town does stop and they help each other.
For Chapman News, I'm Anna Montemore.
Luca, has it been weirdly warm these past few weeks? I'm used to wearing sweats, not shorts.
Yeah, it's been quite hot lately. It makes me want to put my bathing suit on. Barbara Fox is in the Weather Center to tell us if the warm weather will continue.
Thanks, guys. Here in Orange, it's a little bit chillier this morning, but we can expect the clouds to clear up, as the clouds are going to go away and it's going to be a beautiful day here in Southern California with clear skies. Now moving on to our national forecast, up in Seattle, Washington, it's going to be a high of 44 degrees and be a quite a bit cloudy there. And as we move on down to San Francisco, it's going to be a high of 56 degrees. And as we move on to Las Vegas, Nevada, it's going to be a high of 72 degrees with no clouds in sight. A beautiful day there. And then as we move on to Denver, Colorado, it's going to be a high of 61 degrees and partially cloudy. As we move all the way down to Austin, Texas, it's going to be a high of 78 degrees and showers are expected. As we move on to the Midwest, it's going to be a high of 44 degrees. And then as we move all the way down to Chicago, showers are expected with a high of 48 degrees. And all the way down in Atlanta, Georgia, it's going to be a beautiful day there with no clouds in sight at a high of 75 degrees. And then all the way down in Miami, Florida, it's going to get a little bit warmer at a high of 78 degrees. Moving along the East Coast in New York, it's going to be a high of 50 degrees which is a little bit higher than usual for this time of year. And then moving on down in Washington, D.C., it's going to be a high of 62 degrees with some showers expected. Moving on to our Orange County forecast, in Westminster, it's going to be a high of 64 degrees. And then along the coast in Newport Beach, it's going to be a high of 61 degrees, a little bit cooler, but that's as expected. And then in Laguna Beach, it's going to be the same. And then as we move more inland, it's going to be 65 degrees in Irvine. And then Mission Viejo, it's going to be a little bit warmer at a high of 69 degrees. And then going back a little bit more towards the coast in San Clemente, it'll be 62 degrees. Moving on to our Orange County 7-day forecast. On Saturday, it's going to be a high of 65 degrees and be partially cloudy with a low of 51 degrees. And then on Sunday, it's going to get a little bit warmer at a high of 68 degrees and a low of 48 degrees. On Monday, it will be a high of 66 degrees and a low of 49 degrees. And then on Tuesday, we can expect the clouds to be going away, and it's going to be a beautiful day with a high of 68 degrees and a low of 51 degrees. On Wednesday, we can expect the clouds to be rolling back in at a high of 67 degrees and a low of 49 degrees. On Thursday, we can expect some weather changes as the clouds are going to be staying, but we can expect showers with a high of 63 degrees and a low of 52 degrees. That's all I have today for your local and national weather forecast. I'm Barbara Fox. Back to you at the desk.
And coming up on the Best Campus Sports Show, we'll have the latest on the MLB lockout, SoCal football, and much more. Stay tuned.
What do we do? You may not be able to plan ahead for a ghost encounter.
Under the dining table now!
But you can plan ahead for natural disasters. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts.
Maybe it's the apocalypse.
Know your evacuation routes and decide on a safe emergency meeting location.
Here? I know. What a big Orlando.
Protecting your family is the best plan you can make. So pass the Proton Pack to the next generation and visit ready.gov/plan to get started.
I'm Kinsley Rolfe, and welcome back to the Best Campus Sports Show. A lot happened in the sports world this week, so let's jump right into it. The MLB is having its first work stoppage since 1994. This week, the Collective Bargaining Agreement, or CBA, expired. This agreement governs all aspects of the work relationship between MLB players and team owners. Due to this, the team owners voted on the MLB lockout. So what does this mean during this offseason? It means that the free agency process for players is frozen, even with some big-name players on the market. And what are they fighting over? As usual, it's all about the money. From the players' point of view, they want their shrinking share of league revenues to be addressed. The owners want to keep things the way they were because the expired CBA worked in their benefit. The MLB Players Association reacted to this by saying, "We remain determined to return to the field under the terms of a negotiated collective bargaining agreement that is fair to all parties and provides fans with the best version of the game we all love." This lockout may mean big changes for the MLB, but players, fans, and owners are all going to have to wait and see about the impact. Lincoln Riley has left his post as the head coach of the Oklahoma Sooners to head to sunny Southern California and change his tie from Crimson to Cardinal. He is now the head coach for USC football, but it seems like a step down for him. In Riley's last 5 seasons with Oklahoma, they had 3 college playoff appearances, 4 Big 12 titles, and 4 10-win seasons. Meanwhile, USC has not made the college football playoffs in 10 years and barely won 1 Pac-12 title. USC Athletic Director Mike Bond is excited about the hire. He says, "It was never our goal to change the landscape of college football with one of the biggest moves in the history of the game." A big change in the game indeed, and now college football fans across the country are anticipating a domino effect, where Oklahoma players will follow Riley to USC. We have already seen Sooners quarterback Spencer Rattler go into the transfer portal. For his part, Riley says he is grateful for his time at Oklahoma with the Sooners, stating,
"That's one of the
best college football programs in the country and has been forever and will continue to be. So very thankful for my time here.
In other SoCal football news, Mater Dei High School's powerhouse football program is under fire. A recent lawsuit alleges a hazing culture on the team. In a widely seen video, a larger player is seen punching a smaller player in the head, while other players are on their phones. The video prompted calls for the firing of Mater Dei's head coach Bruce Rollinson. Even though the Santa Ana Police Department recommended felony assault charges, the Orange County District Attorney says the behavior in the video does not meet the legal standards for hazing or assault. Mater Dei says it will conduct an independent investigation of its sports programs. That's all I have for you this week on the Best Campus Sports Show. I'm Kinsley Rolfe, now to Danielle with entertainment.
Wondering how much Mariah Carey makes from her Christmas hit? We'll have more for you after the break.
They call me Maxie, but I prefer tripod. I was your above-average four-legged homie, and then wham, bam, minivan. Some people pity me. Now that's lame. I still run, fetch, and swim. And the ladies love me. I'm the ultimate wingman. Just don't ask me to high five.
I'm Danielle Burke-North, and welcome back to another segment of Now or Never. You already know what time of year it is. Time for hot cocoa, mistletoe, and of course, Mariah Carey's voice. Mariah's popular All I Want for Christmas Is You is basically the holiday anthem. And with the song's continuous replays every December, sometimes November for you holiday early birds, it makes me wonder, just how much does Mariah make from the song each year? Well, according to NBC, she collected $1.9 million in 2020 from streams alone. That's not including downloads and other royalties. She is already one of the top 20 richest singers of 2021 with a net worth of over $3 million. And with the song's replays this year, we can expect Mariah to take an even bigger check to the bank. And sad news out of Hollywood this week, Los Angeles police are charging a 29-year-old man in the shooting death of Jacqueline Avant. Jacqueline, an 81-year-old philanthropist and the wife of legendary music executive Clarence Avant, was killed in a home invasion robbery in Beverly Hills Wednesday night. Several influential entertainment figures, including Oprah and Viola Davis, shared their condolences on social media. Former President Bill Clinton tweeted, "A dear friend to Hillary and me for 30 years. She inspires admiration, respect, and affection in everyone who knows her. We are heartbroken." Known for pushing boundaries in fashion, art, and music, 41-year-old Virgil Abloh, founder of cult streetwear label Off-White and designer for Louis Vuitton, has passed away after battling cancer. Perhaps Virgil's greatest legacy and his contribution to the world of footwear, his endless crossover collaborations between Off-White and Nike. Resale prices for the X Air Jordan 1 Chicago have now jumped from $190 to anywhere between $5,300 to $10,000. Chapman's very own Dodge College is hosting a screening of the film Dune in the Foligno Theater tomorrow morning, followed by a Q&A session with the director, Denis Villeneuve. The film follows the journey of a young man played by actor Timothée Chalamet as he fights the dark forces of the planet to save his family and people. You have to reserve tickets online. The screening will start at 9:30 a.m. with the doors opening at 9. I'll definitely be there early to get my front row seats. For Chapman News, I'm Danielle Burke-North.
The city of Orange is hosting its 27th annual tree lighting ceremony and choir concert this weekend to kick off the holiday season. After a virtual celebration last year, the event will be held in person in the Old Town Orange Plaza this Sunday. Festivities will begin at 3:30, featuring a candlelight choir, multiple community booths, activities for children, and a photo op with Santa. Tiffany, are you planning on getting a Christmas tree this year?
My roommates and I are actually planning to look for a tree this weekend.
If only my roommates couldn't take care of a cactus, much less a full Christmas tree. Perhaps artificial this year. Well, that's all the time we have for this week. Be sure to check us out on YouTube at chapmannews.tv and follow us on social media at Chapman News. I'm Luke Evans.
And I'm Tiffany Chen, and we'll see you next week for our last show of the semester.